This video is brought to you by Saraswati Vidyalaya Union and this is Prapti. Now see about the organism and populations. Natural world around us shows amazing diversity of forms and complexity of relations. To understand this, we have to study levels of organization in living world wise macromolecules, cells, tissues, organs, individual organism, population, communities, ecosystems and biomes. We have already studied in school that ecology it is the study of interaction among organism and between the organism and their physical environment. Means what? Abiotic environment. So this ecology, this term which is discussed by the scientist, which is first used by the scientist, that scientist's name was the Retter. But then E. Haeckel, this was the scientist who gave substance to the term, is who introduced this term ecology. Now ecological grouping of organism is nothing but the ecological hierarchy. Now let's read about the organization, level of organization. In this there are the four sequential levels with increasing complexity of ecological biological organization. That means first organism, then populations, then communities and then biomes. This individual organism is the basic unit of ecological hierarchy. Now about the population. Population in these organisms of same kind inhabiting a geographical area constitute population. Now let's study about the community. Several populations of different species in a particular area constitute community. Remember this one, in this community they interact with one another in several ways. After that, then there is next one that is known as the biome. In this biome constitute a large regional terrestrial unit that is delimited by a specific climatic zone having major vegetation zone, that is plant communities, and they are associated with the fauna. There are 6 major groups of terrestrial biomes. So we'll study in this, but now in this chapter we are going to study first about the organism and population, these two levels. Now let's study in detail. Now the next thing, organism and the environment around. This ecology at the level of organism is basically the study of animal and plant physiology, which help us to understand how the organisms are adapted to their environments, not only for their survival but also for the propagation. Propagation means what? For multiplication. Now if you observe the diagram, then you will understand in this diagram it is already given, and now as well as we have already studied in the last few lectures or the earlier classes that about the rotation of earth, that earth rotating around the sun, the tilt of its axis, so that is causes seasons. These seasons with the annual variation in precipitation in the form of rain and snow, which gives rise to formation of major biomes of the earth like desert, rainforest, grassland, tundra, etc. There is a regional and local variation within each biome led to the formation of a variety of habitat. Major biomes of earth are shown in this picture. On the earth, life exists even in extreme and harsh habitat like scorching desert of Rajasthan, perpetually rain-soaked forest of northeastern states and high mountain tops of Himalayas. So like this the distribution of the habitats. But here we have to remember that not only the physiochemical component, means the abiotic components that make up the habitat of the organism, but the habitat also includes biotic component. Now which are the biotic components includes into that? such as the plants, pathogen, parasites and predators of the organism. So if we assume that over a period of time the organism had through natural selection evolved adaptations to optimize its survival and reproduction in its habitat. Now let's study about the major abiotic factors. In that, temperature, water, after that light and soil. These are the major abiotic factors. In this we are going to study first one, that is known as the temperature. It is most ecologically relevant environmental factor. Average temperature on land varies from sub-zero levels in polar areas and high altitudes, upwards up to 50 degrees centigrade in the tropical desert in summer. With the help of diagram you will understand. Temperatures also vary seasonally. It decreases progressively from equator towards the poles and from plain to the mountain tops. There are some unique habitat such as hot spring. So this hot spring having 80 to 100 degrees centigrade temperature, and the second one, that is a deep sea hydrothermal vent. So these deep sea hydrothermal vents where average temperatures usually 400 degrees centigrade. This ambient temperature affects the enzyme kinetics of the cell and thus the entire metabolism, activity and other physiology of the organism. Only few organisms can tolerate and thrive in a wide range of temperature, and that are only known as the eurythermal. See, in the picture I have shown eurythermal animal. Now the next one, that is known as the stenothermal. These stenothermal organism, a vast majority of them are restricted to a narrow range of temperature. Remember this one, whenever they are restricted or the tolerant the wide range of temperature, they are known as a eurythermal, and whenever they are restricted to the narrow range of temperature, they are known as the stenothermal. So this is about the temperature. Now the next thing is there, so that is known as the water. Water is another important abiotic factor. This availability of water is an important factor affecting the organism. As we know, life on the earth originated in water. Its availability is so limited in desert that only a special adaptations are required to survive there. The productivity and distribution of plants are also heavily dependent on the water. Now, here if you observe this organism living in water bodies such as ocean, lakes, rivers, they have their own water related problems. For aquatic organism, the chemical composition, pH, so it is very important. Then the dissolved salt concentration. So on the salt concentration, again the two different types of organisms are there. Okay, means what? On the basis of salinity, there are the two different types of animals are there. But here the dissolved salt concentration, that is measured as salinity in parts per thousand. Whenever it is less than 5 part per thousand in fresh water of streams, lakes and rivers, and 30 to 35 ppt in seas and oceans. It may go up to 100 ppts, that means 100 part per thousand in some hypersaline lagoons also. Some organisms, they can tolerate for a wide range of salinity. They are known as a euryhyaline, and when the other animals, they are restricted to the narrow range, that is known as the stenohyaline. Many freshwater animals cannot live for long in seawater and vice versa. Means that seawater animals also cannot live for longer time in the fresh water. Okay, because of the osmotic problems they would face. So this is about the water. Okay, now the next one, that is known as the light. This plant use light for the photosynthesis. All of you knows that with the help of the photosynthesis, means during the process of photosynthesis plants absorb, that means in presence of light plants can prepare their own food material. So in the photosynthesis the main source of energy is what? That main source of energy, that is the sunlight, and this photosynthesis can occur only in presence of the sunlight. Many species of small plants such as herbs and shrubs, they are growing on forest floor, are adapted to perform photosynthesis optimally under very low light condition, because they are constantly overshadowed by the tall trees. But for animals, in the animals also, diurnal and the seasonal variation in light intensity and duration, that is a photoperiod, which are clues for timing for foraging, reproductive and the migratory activities. So for that purpose that sunlight is playing an important role. The availability of light on the land, it is closely linked with that of temperature, since the sun is the source for both. So this is about the light. Now the next one, the last factor, abiotic factor, that is known as the soil. The nature and the properties of soil are dependent on the climate and the weathering process. Why on the weathering process? Because by the weathering of rocks only that soil is produces. Now see this various characteristics of soil such as soil composition, grain size determine the percolation and water holding capacity of the soil. These characteristics along with pH, mineral composition and topography. Topography, that means the growth, means the top layer. Okay, that study of the soil, that is topography, that determines the vegetation of an area. This vegetation in turn dictates the type of animals. Like this, these are the abiotic factors. These abiotic factors that determine the type of habitat and also considerable diurnal and the seasonal variation. In plants and animals must adapt to these changes in order to survive and flourish in the habitat. During the course of their evolution, many species have evolved a relatively constant internal environment, and that permits all biochemical reaction and physiological functions to proceed with optimum rate and allow the species to flourish. Organism try to maintain the constancy of its internal environment, that is known as the homeostasis, despite variation in the external environmental condition. To survive and flourish in any environment, organism must adapt to the changes in the environment, for which there are following possibilities. In that, regulate, conform, migrate and suspend. In that first one, that is known as the regulate. Some organisms are able to maintain homeostasis by physiological and behavioral changes, which ensure constant body temperature, constant osmotic concentration, etc. All birds and mammals are capable of such regulation, that is thermoregulation or the osmoregulation. You can see in the diagram I have already shown it. Then the second one, that is known as the conform. Most of the animals and plants cannot maintain a constant internal environment. Their body temperature changes with the ambient temperature. In aquatic animals, the osmotic concentration of the body fluids changes with that of the ambient water osmotic concentration. These animals and plants are simply conformers. Some species have evolved the ability to regulate within a limited range of environmental conditions, beyond which they simply conform. If the stressful environment is localized or only for a short period of time, the organism may migrate or suspend its activities. Third one, that is migrate. The organism can move away temporarily from the stressful habitat to a more hospitable area and return when stressful period is over. Many animals, particularly birds, during winter undertake long distance migration to more hospitable areas. Suspend. Now the next one, fourth point is there, that is known as the suspend. In plants, seed serves as means to tide over periods of stress. They germinate to form new plants under favorable moisture and temperature conditions. They do so by reducing their metabolic activity and going into a state of dormancy. Means during the favorable conditions, so these seeds do not germinate, that is known as the seed dormancy. So here also that plants undergoes dormancy. In animals, the organisms, if unable to migrate, may go into hibernation during winter, that is polar bear. Some snails and fish go into estivation to avoid summer heat. So this is related to the changes in the internal temperature. Now, thanks for watching this video. Please like and comment and please share my video and please subscribe my channel. My channel name is Prapti Vanzare. Thank you.